probably took me a couple of years to like it, but now I really enjoy it a lot. So, and then every time we've thought about moving somewhere else, wherever we go somewhere, we're like, oh my gosh, the house is too close to each other. We're used to our space. And I don't know, I don't think I could live anywhere else at this point in my life right now anyway.
This is the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, 30-minute conversations with women who have found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm Dawn Davis, and this is episode 157. Find out more about the podcast at desertladydiaries.com or engage with guests, listeners, and me on Facebook and Instagram at Desert Lady Diaries. Robyn Lewis is originally from Kingston, Ontario, Canada. In 1991, a young, newly married woman at the time, Robyn moved to Los Angeles to pursue her acting career. While living in Los Angeles, Robyn would make trips out to Pioneertown for a change of scenery. In 2004, Robyn purchased a home in Johnson Valley, but soon realized the location was a bit remote for her and her 2 children. Robyn now lives in Joshua Tree and was a familiar face at a popular local eatery for over 10 years. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dawn.
Tell me what your first experience with desert was.
Well, my husband at the time, we used to come out to Pioneertown because my friend had a little house in Pioneertown. And it was back in the day when Pappy and Harriett used to own Pappy and Harriett, and when their granddaughter, Christina, would sing at the jukebox, and she would rock the place. It was amazing. She has the most beautiful voice. And we used to go in when there was no lines ever, at any time of day, any time of night, and we just used to have fun, in Pioneertown. We had other friends that lived locally, so we would just go have a couple of drinks with them and walk around and eventually make our way through Yucca Valley, and when there was one street light, and there was no Starbucks, there was nothing here.
Talk a little bit more about that, because people that are just moving here or like me have only been here a very short time wonder about all those places. So you moved here before Super Walmart. Was the Kmart here? Because a lot of people have talked about the Kmart.
Yeah, the Kmart was here. Okay. And that was really small. It was really, really cute in there. And the only place that I remember really in Joshua Tree was the Royal Siamese Thai restaurant. Oh, and then there was, back in the day, there was a place called where Beatnik is. It was called Jeremy's Coffee House. And that guy was actually an actor. He was originally from New York and had retired from acting in Hollywood and moved out here. I don't know what happened, but eventually he moved on and something else came in. But literally there was one street light in this town. There was nobody hardly ever here, and it was just really quiet, and peaceful. There was no Starbucks, there was no Applebee's, there was Vaughn's and Stater Brothers, and it was just really remote.
Yeah. Did you spend any time in the national park when you came up on those trips?
You know what, to be honest with you, the sad thing about it is we didn't really go into that area, and until I met my current fiance, Steve, he's the one that actually introduced me to the park. So I gotta say, I'm kind of embarrassed. I didn't really even know anything about the park, because we would spend our time more in Pioneertown or Yucca Valley, the Water Canyon Coffee House. There was a restaurant right beside Water Canyon, and I think it might have been CNS. Maybe CNS moved, but it was really small. It was a real hole-in-the-wall place, but it was great.
Where was Water Canyon?
Water Canyon was where Frontier Coffee House is now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's been a number of iterations of that corner.
Yeah.
Well, since you've been here too.
Yeah, and I guess way back in the day it was a pharmacy, as far as I know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Always the corner pharmacy, right? It's similar to the one that's in 29 Palms.
Yes.
I think was a Rexall on the corner there, and then that's been a number of restaurants and things like that. That's cool. Well, to be fair, a lot of people do not move here just because of the park. Yeah. There are many who do, maybe climbers who've come here often and really fell in love with the place, or people who just love walking all the trails, but some people just are here for the quiet and the silence and the beauty of what's here.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Totally.
There's no stars like the desert. I never experienced it until you just look up, and how can you not fall in love with this place?
Right.
Yeah.
So when did that happen for you? How was the decision then coming up here and making trips to Pioneertown, and then it's like, oh, I'm moving?
Yeah, well, basically my husband at the time, we actually bought a place in Johnson Valley, but I just realized it was too far out, and things weren't really going well with us anyway. So he actually stayed in Pasadena, and I stayed out here in Johnson Valley, and I rented it. After about a year of living there, I rented it to somebody, and then we moved into Yucca Valley, and I rented a house until I met Steve about a year later.
So your kids went to school out here?
Yes.
All of their school?
Yes.
How old were they when you came out?
No, actually, they lived with their dad for a few years. They went back to live with him in Pasadena for a few years. And then they moved here when they were like 6 and 8. Okay. And then they went to Friendly Hills. Okay. So they really liked it. And we actually bought a house around Friendly Hills just because of that. That's exactly where I wanted. I just kind of drove around that area, and I heard that was a good school to go to. So I'm like, let's try to find something around here. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah. I'm glad they lived out here because they appreciate the beauty. And my son is into, and my daughter was too, motorcycle riding and all that stuff. And they really like the desert. So.
Do you think they'll stay? Because he's just on his way to Texas, right? Your son?
Yeah, my son's actually in Texas, and he called and he's like, "Mom, it's so hot here." He goes, I miss California."
Aww.
Yeah, he goes, well, there's so much variety here, right? And it's just really, really spread out in Texas. But my daughter lives in 29, about 15 minutes, and flat. Once you get used to the mountains, you can't go back.
Right.
And even me living in Canada, going back to visit, I'm like, there's so much concrete. Yeah. And there's no mountains, and it's flat. I miss some of the seasons, but not the 6 months of freezing cold weather.
Right.
So, yeah. Even though I don't like the heat here in the summer, I can deal with it.
So Kingston, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah.
For folks who aren't familiar, can you map that for them so they kind of...
So there's Toronto, and Kingston's 2 hours east of Toronto. And then there's Montreal. There's actually Syracuse, New York, which is right across the border. And then it actually goes I believe it's Fort Drum, New York. And then that's where the military base is. And then there's Syracuse, which is further down. And then I believe you just go on the outskirts, and then you just eventually end up in New York City.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah. But to get on the thruway.
Yeah, it's pretty. The nice thing about that area is there's so many. You could go to Montreal within a few hours. You can go to Toronto within 2 or 3 hours, all depending on traffic.
So when you were in Canada, how did you get into the acting community?
You know what? I took a few classes in Canada, and then I came here, and I was just like, let me just try it out. I wasn't one of those kids in school that did theater. I was really shy. I didn't do theater at all in school. I was like a real introvert and really shy and everything. And then I just decided to try it. And it was a lot of extra work, and I had a few bit parts. I didn't have huge parts or anything. I just played with it and had fun. But I did get into the Screen Actors Guild, and I'm still in it.
I know I struggle with, should I pay my dues? Should I keep paying my dues?
Well, I did an honorary withdrawal, so I don't have to pay.
Gotcha.
I did that years ago. I kept paying for years, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So
that's where I'm at now.
So that's what because at any time I could just join back up, and it's not a big deal. But if you forget about ever paying, then that's the worst, right? Because then they'll let you go, and then you have to start from square one.
Exactly.
And as you know, as being an actress, Dawn, you just never know when your big break's going to come.
Exactly.
So even when you're 80 years old, who cares, right?
No,
we get more witty as we get older.
Exactly. I had a casting director say to me once, I went to one of these casting director workshops, and I had done my scene, and she looked at me and she said, "Now you're never going to play a leading role." And I said, "I know. And that's okay, because the people who don't play the leading roles probably work more."
I was just going to say, I would rather be a working actor in the background and be seen once in a while rather than being stomped on the streets everywhere you go.
What was your favorite part of being on set?
Honestly, just being goofy. I played like nerds and geeks and stuff like that, and I always made everybody laugh, so that was fine with me. I never cared about being famous or about any of that stuff. It wasn't for me, and that's okay.
Yeah, the work is what I love, and I think that's what I got a little discouraged about. It was at the height of, how many Instagram followers do you have? How many Facebook followers do you have? And don't send anyone to audition unless they have X number of Instagram followers.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's getting totally away from the work.
Yeah.
No, I was way out of it before then, and I enjoyed the people that I worked with, and then once I was in a little group, I worked for years because of that. And, Hollywood's really small.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And you don't realize it.
Right.
I had no idea. Coming from Canada, I was so naive. I got caught up in things, in scams and everything.
Oh
gosh.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think to myself now. If I had come out here at 18, I didn't have anywhere near the knowledge that when I left Florida and came to LA that I had.
No, you were probably very happy. I mean, not very happy, but it was a very good thing that you had more of a background before you came out, because I got scammed.
Oh no, that's terrible.
That's all right, but it was a learning lesson. But they pick it up as soon as you walk in a room. Right?
Yeah, totally.
You were young and naive, and you're like, oh, where are you from? You're somewhere different. But it happens to a lot of people. One time I actually got my money back, so that was good.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, a lawyer called me and I got $300 back.
That's great.
So it was great.
So when you came to, let's start with when you came to Johnson Valley. Mm-hmm. Were you working? Were you involved in the community, or were you just like, I'm at home taking care of my kids and that's what I'm doing?
Yeah, I was at home taking care of my kids, and I got really busy with Mommy and me in Yucca Valley.
Oh.
The park in Yucca Valley was our savior. We went there every day and had picnics, and I hung out with all the women, and then I started to teach the class. After a few months, they had like a Mommy and me class inside one of the rooms. It was like a few hours, and then I just met all these women, and it was great because we needed to keep busy. Sometimes I kept the kids a bit too busy. But they were a little young, but yeah, we were out all day.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
They need to be out and about and socializing and getting all that experience. Yeah. And then as parents, you need that socialization as well instead of just being alone in a remote location.
Exactly.
So how did you come to be working at Crossroads then?
Well, we had a plumbing business for many years. When the recession hit, I believe it was 2011, we had a lot of commercial accounts. So that kind of went under. We had a bit too much overhead at the time, and we were still doing okay. But my boyfriend went back to work in Los Angeles for many years, and he just worked for a company that he worked for rather than carrying on out here because we didn't have a lot of residential, and it was more commercial, and the commercial just weren't calling us like they used to. And so he went back there, and I'm like, well, I should go to work. And the kids were a little bit older, and I just needed socialization, so I went and applied at Crossroads Café, and honestly, I had the best time of my life there. I met so many amazing people, and the owners are great. It was just, you could just really be yourself, right? And you could just communicate with everybody that walked in, and just I made people laugh, and we were all real family there, and I miss it a lot.
Yeah,
but it was a lot of fun. The family units that I'm still friends with all the girls.
I know that a number of times, even before I moved here, when I was in there, I would just sit at the counter sometimes amazed because it is such a small space. If someone listening hasn't ever been, it's a super small space, and the way you all work together, and it was like watching some kind of a dance happening. Everybody knows where everything is, or the cooks and the dishwashers are kind of in the same space but opposite walls, and everybody just knew how to navigate that space to get done what needed to get done.
Yeah, we actually got a few notes sometimes on the chemistry that we all had, and people used to leave notes. I love this place. Aww. The chemistry between everybody here. You're like a real family unit, and it was really, really amazing, and it was probably the best place I ever worked at. We just had such a community there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I met so many locals too. You know, I would be sarcastic sometimes when people come in. I'd be like, just sit down. Go get your own coffee. I make them laugh,
Right.
So, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and that's one of the highly recommended places to come. And I think part of being in a tourist area and then being tourist facing like that all the time, you can't even imagine who's walking in the door and who you're going to meet, and most of the people that are there are on vacation unless they're locals.
Yeah.
So they're happy to be on vacation and in a place that they're either discovering or rediscovering, or that they've fell in love with and come back on a regular basis. So
I had one lady about 2 years ago. She actually came back and she said, I just want to let you know that I told my family I had the most amazing waitress, and I'm so glad you're here now. And I thought that was so incredible. That was like 2 years ago. And I was like, that made me it brought tears to my eyes.
Sure.
It was really nice. People remember you. You know?
It's very rare. You know, people don't hesitate to complain.
Of course.
And let you know they're upset with something, but it's very rare that someone actually verbalizes their appreciation, especially in a role where you're just waiting on people all day long.
Yeah, no kidding. And boy, did the acting come out at the end of the day.
So it's useful still. Oh my gosh. Did you ever imagine when you were growing up in Canada that you would be living in the desert?
Absolutely not. I don't know who does. It's so different. You know, I grew up making snowmen and building snow caves and everything, and I had no idea. I remember when I first came out here, I was like, what is this place? I thought it was another world. I mean, it's just so different. Because I lived in Altadena for many years, and this was very, very different. It was, especially going to Pioneertown, it was like back in the day. Well, that's where the movies were filmed and everything, the Gene Autry and Roy Rogers movies.
Yeah. Was Main Street active then with shops like it is now?
Yeah.
It was.
Maybe not as active, but people, I think more people lived there.
Okay.
Maybe, if I can remember right.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the bowling alley was there. We would go bowling. Mm-hmm.
I see that they've recently just reopened it. Are there 6 lanes?
I thought there was... Maybe there is 6 lanes, but there used to be an ice cream place in there.
Oh,
I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah, I've just recently seen on social media a couple people were posting that they're reopened it. I don't know. I feel like they reopened just maybe before COVID.
Oh, okay.
And then they've been closed, and now they were allowed to reopen.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah. So was it hard to acclimate yourself? I mean, you moved here, but were you like in love with having moved here, or was that really hard?
To be honest with you, no. I didn't like it for the longest time. It was way too hot for me. I still don't like the heat in the summer. My hope is that someday when we're doing a little bit better in life, and is that 2 or 3 months we could leave. Because for some reason, I don't know why, the heat just has always gotten to me.
Yeah.
But I do love it now, and I did love it when the kids were growing up. It probably took me a couple of years to like it, but now I really enjoy it a lot. So, and then every time we've thought about moving somewhere else, wherever we go somewhere, we're like, oh my gosh, the house is too close to each other. We're used to our space, you know? And I don't know. I don't think I could live anywhere else at this point in my life right now anyway. I don't want to hear some baby crying or somebody talking or something.
Right, the silence. Once you have a taste of that silence, and I think a lot of people have a hard time with it when they first come.
Yeah.
They're not either the one who wanted to come here, especially with the military wives. My experience in even interviewing a lot of them is that it grows on them, and then they're sorry when they have to leave. But some of them come back and retire here because they loved it so much, and they love the community that they became a part of.
Right. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were to find a place that you would go to 2 or 3 months a year, where do you imagine that might be?
I don't know. We like Big Bear a lot. Like, we go up there quite a lot. It reminds me of Canada, the greenery.
Yeah.
Maybe Northern California. I don't know. Maybe just travel, because we haven't yet. Maybe back east. Maybe stay in Canada a little bit, but then I would deal with the humidity, which I'm not used to.
Right.
And then the mosquitoes at 4 o'clock come out. I mean, that's not fun either.
No.
So, but probably just travel. Maybe even just around California, somewhere cooler.
Have you been to Idlewild?
It's too high for me.
Oh, really?
I like it, yeah, but that road, it just makes me really nervous. I thought Big Bear was bad, but that makes me really nervous.
Rim of the World you find better than Idlewild?
We go the back way to Big Bear, and for some reason it's not that bad. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's listening and you haven't been on Rim of the World Road...
Oh, that's
pretty wild. And I have a hard time when I'm driving up there by myself because the view is amazing. I know. But you got to keep your eye on the road.
I know. It's true. Very true.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Well, I don't know about living up there in the wintertime. That would make me nervous.
Well, you need chains and all that stuff to get around in the snow.
I'm not used to driving in the snow either.
No.
So.
Yeah. Well, I've done it, but that doesn't mean I want to do it.
Right. I know. we've been out there in the snow. It's great for the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you come back.
And then this is why I'm reminded where I live.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to camp up there in the beginning of August. I have a couple of days reserved up there.
Oh, that'll be nice.
At the Dogwood Campground, I think it is. It got canceled last year because the fires.
Oh, right.
They closed San Bernardino Forest, so
I remember.
Fingers are crossed that that's not going to happen this year, which is good. So when you left Canada and came to the U.S., are you still officially a Canadian citizen?
Yeah, I'm a permanent resident. I still haven't done my paperwork. I should have done it a long, long time ago, but I just have never gotten around to it. And now it's just gotten more expensive, which I could totally do. It's not a problem, but I don't know why I haven't. I still have to do it. I mean, I can't vote, and is it the jury system? I can't vote for the jury.
You can't get on a jury.
I can't get on a jury.
Right, participate.
That's why I'm trying to find the right words.
Right.
But
do you think that's something that you'll do, or is it
I really should. Then that my Canadians are like, well, why even do that? Does it really matter? I'm like, well, I've been here for a long time, and I should be part of the American system. Because I could still go, as far as I know, go back to Canada. Anytime soon. So I mean, if I wanted to permanently retire there or something, but I don't see that happening.
So as far as like the healthcare and all that kind of stuff, if you went back to Canada, are you still eligible for that?
I believe, I haven't been there for so long, but I believe it used to be that you have to live there for a year in order to get everything back.
Okay.
But it could have changed, like everything. So
you're not really a dual citizen.
Well,
you're still a citizen of Canada and a permanent resident of the U.S.
Yes, but if I became an American, as far as I know, Canada does not make you give your citizenship away. I could be a dual citizen.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
You've been here for a number of years now, and you see the influx of people coming now. Have you seen influxes like that before?
Not like this.
Oh, really?
No. For years, honestly, it's been probably the last 5 or 6 or 7 years. I have constantly asked people, because I'm really nosy, I ask people, customers that come in, where are you visiting from? Where are you visiting from? Or, and a lot of them are buying houses from the Bay Area, from New York, from Chicago, from Seattle, Oregon. They're tired of the weather. But a lot of people have moved out here. But our hope is always, once the summertime hits, I hope they get out of here.
Well, the summertime, the wind, the monsoons.
Exactly. It's a lot of everything in the summer.
It's extreme.
It is extreme.
Yeah. And you have to be able to manage that. Pandemic aside, yes, it is a beautiful and wonderful place to live, but it's not for everyone. And I feel like the desert has its way of sorting out.
Well, for instance, we've lost a couple of jobs the last month because customers have said, we can't handle the heat. We're not coming up here right now. We'll catch you back in September, October. And it's like, that's just, actually, I think 3 customers have told us that. So and they're from LA or Orange County. But so that's going to happen. And people are going to move out here during the pandemic to realize, oh, this is a great place and everything. But once summertime hits, I think it's going to happen again. But, I think it's great for the economy in many ways. But when you come up here, just respect it and don't be loud and pick up your garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to volunteer when I first came to California for 5 years at the Forest Service in Altadena because my husband at the time worked for them. And so we did so many hours in the Forest Service that we got a plaque. And they gave us like a congratulations and standing up. And so we used to pick up trash for days, actually months. And we would talk to people about the trails, about respecting, don't cut down this, or, pick up. If you bring it in, pick it up.
Right.
We would talk to them about different ways of going through the trails and everything, and to be careful, or if there's danger ahead, so I learned
education.
I learned a great respect for the Forest Service.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I know.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. I had a great time. Yeah, I used to actually work at the volunteer on the Angeles Crest Highway, which is super dangerous, and the motorcycles used to go off the cliff all the time.
Oh my God!
I used to have to control traffic. Yeah, and I used to have to. It was like even worse than Big Bear. You think Big Bear's road bad? It was bad, and I would shut down the road and control traffic, and I wasn't getting paid for it. I'm like, God, this is dangerous.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was fun.
But you were doing what you knew was needed to be done.
I really liked it. I had a great time doing it.
So maybe there's another career in your future of park ranger.
I don't think so. It was fun volunteering, but I don't know about that. Well,
gotcha. Yeah. They have it pretty rough now, I think, with budgets being what they are and understaffed, and then the parks are overwhelmed. I mean, it's not just here in Joshua Tree, it's many other national parks are just having the same experience.
Put something on Facebook a little while ago about how the parks were overrun and they're shutting down and stuff like that.
Right, or you have to make a reservation to see certain sites.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, or parking. I mean, we tried the bus thing and it just didn't go. But in other places, that's required. You park here, you get on the bus, we will take you to the different places and we'll bring you back to your car.
Right.
They're having to do that. And I mean, emissions and people that are parking off the paved roads and they don't realize, like, it doesn't sound like a big deal, like, oh, I'm just parking on sand. Okay. But you're also, like, destroying an ecosystem, and you're also making it easier for non-native species to get those seeds in there, which then creates these non-native grasses, which are hard to control when it's fire season. So it's a whole, it's not just, oh, I'll just pull over on this, it's just a sandy spot.
Yeah.
Not really.
Oh, I know.
So it's hard to educate people.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. First of all, I'm glad to know you.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And before I let you go, though, I'm going to ask you to pick... Oh, and if you didn't know, if you couldn't tell, Robyn is actually sitting across from me at my kitchen table like we used to be. So this is very exciting. I almost didn't even know what to do anymore because I wasn't on Zoom. All right, pick another one because we need 4 questions.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. Let's see what numbers you have.
Oh, is it 3?
There's 4. No, they're on the back.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Flip them over. I'm super frugal, so I wouldn't ever just put one number.
That's true. I know that about you.
Yes. Okay. The questions I'm going to ask Robyn for the Diary Unlocked portion of the podcast, which, if you're not familiar, is an option to support the podcast financially through the Patreon website. So if you're interested in doing something like that, go to desertladydiaries.com, click on the support tab, and sign up to be a patron of the podcast, and you will have access to Robyn's answers to these questions on Diary Unlocked and all of the Diary Unlocks that I've been doing probably for the last 1.5 years or 2. The first question Robyn's going to answer is, you bought a lottery ticket that ends up winning $10 million. What do you do with it? What's a mistake you've made that you've learned the most from? How do you define success? And last but not least, cake or ice cream, what kind? So if you want to hear Robyn's answers to those questions, go to desertladydiaries.com, click on the support page, and become a patron of the podcast. Robyn Lewis, thank you very much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for interviewing me, Dawn.
Got some shout-outs this week to Stephanie E. Thanks so much for purchasing Desert Lady Diaries merch. I hope you're enjoying the t-shirt. Stacy S., thanks so much for subscribing to Desert Lady Diaries on YouTube. I appreciate you. Sonia K., thanks so much for signing up for the new episode newsletter. And Robyn L. and David B., thanks so much for signing on as patrons of the podcast. Folks who support the podcast in this way help to keep it ad-free for everyone. So thank you for your support. Podcast reviews from listeners provide an authentic summary of what the podcast is about to potential listeners. If you're enjoying this podcast, I would be so grateful if you would post a review on the platform you're listening from. Thanks so much for listening.